Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Unseen Podcast. My name is Brian, and I want to thank you for taking your time to listen today. Our motto it's very simple. It's see the unseen because you matter. I just want to kind of give a reason why this podcast was started. This podcast was created for anyone whose journey through special education, disabilities, or unique challenges has made them feel overlooked, misunderstood, invisible, whether you are someone with a disability, a parent, a teacher, a paraeducator, a caregiver, or simply someone that wants to learn. This podcast is for you. You matter, your story matters, and you're not alone. In this first episode, I'm going to be talking about my story, my experiences within the special education and my challenges, and why the unseen exist. Who am I? Today, I just want to start by introducing myself. My name is Brian. I'm a paraeducator who works with students in special education every day. I get the opportunity to learn something incredible from these kids. Working in special education changed how I see people. It's taught me patience, empathy. Everyone learns in different ways. Learns, communicates, and experiences the world differently. You might notice this in people around you or people you don't see every day. But my connection to this community isn't just because of my job. I have my own experiences too that have shaped who I am today. Today, I'm going to be sharing my journey on how I started with special education, and I still continue to work in it as I got older. I was diagnosed with ADHD at a very young age, and I was tested a lot. I am on the border of having a little bit of autism. When I was first in school, I got connected with a special education. I didn't know everything that entailed, but I had some really nice help from teachers and people around me that connected to me. One of the biggest challenges I had in the school districts, I don't know if anyone else has this experience, but I always felt like I was misunderstood, overlooked, because all these popular kids had everything, but kids that had disabilities or didn't have everything that most people did. They felt left out, they felt overlooked, they felt just put down. And it sucks. And I wanted to create a podcast to just show experiences that you matter. You matter to yourself, you matter to the people around you. You are seen. That's why my motto is see the unseen because you matter. One of the struggles that helps shape who I am today is just being able to make mistakes and understand that everyone makes mistakes. That's one of the biggest reasons why I am who I am today. Some of the lessons I have learned is don't be taken for granted. Even though you put all this joy and generosity into this world, someone's going to come along and take that from you. Don't give that generosity up. Focus on a different person. If that person wants to take you for granted, remove them. Remove them from your life. Get them out of there. You don't need that negative energy. That is one of the biggest lessons I have understood is every time you put that negative energy in yourself or around you, you're sitting around that negative force of, I want this. Like, say you gave some money to someone and you've been asking for it back, and they still haven't gave it to you. And it gets to a point that it's been a year, 2 years, 3 years. At that point, that person's taking you for granted. And that's when you say, I'm done with you. I don't need you in my life anymore. Or people make some of these jokes of, you're dumb. To you, it's not jokes. To them, maybe it is. And if you don't stand up for yourself, there's nothing that will be done unless you stand up. One of the biggest lessons I can give is as long as you show yourself that you are seen, it's one of the greatest gifts. I care so deeply about this community because I'm tired of seeing these teachers and these other people put people like us down. They don't care. They got the world in their hand. I want to show them they don't. We matter just as much as they do. And it's frustrating to see because some of these people that have disabilities aren't able to stand up for themselves. And by showing and by telling people's experiences, that people can look out for that type of stuff that we talk about in these experiences and just show that things need to change. And they can look for these signs of disrespect or just plain right mean. One of my experiences is when I was taking a couple tests, I didn't understand the math part at all, and I was just having a bad day. One of my favorite teachers, I'm not going to name them because I'm not sure if I got permission or not, but one of my favorite teachers came up to me and asked me, "Are you okay?" By someone asking you, "Are you okay?" or making sure that you feel included in the discussions or debates or just feel like you're included by someone asking you, specifically you, asking you, "Hey, do you know this answer?" or "Do you need some help?" or "Do you," just asking the questions or just saying, "Hey, how are you?" By starting a conversation and being intrigued in that conversation, it shows people that you matter. And that's one of the biggest things that I see. One of the questions I get asked all the time is, how has working as a para-educator changed your perspective as working with people with disabilities? It has changed my perspective that there's a lot of negativity, a lot, especially where I am at. And by showing someone that you understand what they're going through and try to connect with them one on one, that's one of the biggest things that help. Some of the reflection questions I will be answering today that I hope you would think about too is, who am I outside this job? Who inspired me to create this podcast? What moments changed my perspective on disabilities and special education? Have I ever felt unseen? What have I learned from my students and families I've met? What challenges do people often misunderstand about special education? Why is it important to have these conversations? What I hope to gain What do I hope listeners gain from this podcast? If one person listens today and feels less alone, what would that mean to me? Let's start off by answering question number one. Who am I outside my job? I am someone that loves just hanging out with people. I am a joyful guy until you break me down. That is one of the biggest things that I hate, is when people bring negativity around me, because I'm a upbeat vibe type of guy. That is one of my favorite things to do, is just hang out, vibe, and have fun. The main thing that question number two says, what inspired me to create this podcast? Well, the thing that inspired me the most is showing people that they're not alone. By showing people they're not alone means you don't have to go through situations alone. There are resources, there are people, there's things to help you. There's people to help you. There's people that care about you no matter what. Question number three says, what moments changed my perspective on disabilities and special education? One of the biggest moments that changed my perspective is when I first started as a paraeducator for a bus. That it's a totally different aspect than being a paraeducator in the classroom. 100 times different, because you're dealing with safety on a bus, making sure the kids are seated and just making sure they are safe and secure, but also having that that day-to-day life of, good morning, you're the first person they see when they get out, when they go to school. They are the last person you see when they get off that bus. One of the biggest perspective changes is, if you're having a bad day, they're going to have a bad day too. They see when you have a bad day and they reflect that whatever vibe you give off lasts through the whole day. That is one thing that changes my perspective. Question number four says, have I ever felt unseen? Yes. Especially when I was younger. I felt like I was overlooked. I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things. I wasn't able to receive help like most of these kids were, because I understand it differently and these teachers didn't want to help. Question number five says, what have I learned from my students and families I've met? One of the biggest things I've learned is to bring a positive vibe even if you're having something going on. By showing yourself that you're courageous, you're brave, you're happy, you're joyful, even in the darkest times, it changes the whole vibe for that whole day. by taking that one step at a time and taking that joyful route, it changes. It changes everyone around you. It changes how you do professionally and in anything you do. Question number 6 says, what challenges do people often misunderstand about special education? I think one of the biggest misunderstandings is a lot of people think that when you're talking about special education, you're mostly talking about the people that are in wheelchairs or can't speak for themselves or they can't hear or there's something like a birth defect. That's not always true. Sometimes it's underneath like in the brain, or you can't see it, but that that they have it because you can tell by their actions, you can tell by the way they learn, and just understanding that everyone is different. People learn differently. People learn visually, people learn hands-on, people learn audibly. It's just different, and a lot of people don't understand that people in special education they kind of don't understand that, yes, people have learning disabilities, but doesn't show how many people have it and how people understand people learn. Question number 8 says, why is it important to have these conversations? Well, it's important to have these conversations to show that there are resources for people that are in need of a better upbringing, like an upbeat vibe. Even on your darkest days, you have someone you can turn to. You have these resources. That is one of the biggest reasons why. Question number 9 also kind of goes along with that. It says, what do I hope for listeners to gain from this podcast? Well, I hope listeners gain from this podcast some experiences and some understanding that what people go through is different. And there are resources to help understand that and guide you through that. If one person listens today and feels less alone, what would that mean to me? That's the last question. It would mean the world to me because it shows that this is working and it's not the only thing out there. So one of the questions that I had earlier that I said was, why this podcast? The purpose of the Unseen podcast isn't to complain. It isn't to point fingers. It's to create understanding. It's to create conversations. It's to let people know there are resources, and it's to remind people they aren't fighting the battles by themselves. We'll be taking educators, parents, adults with disabilities, advocates, therapists, and experts from many different backgrounds. While we celebrate victories, we discuss challenges, we will answer questions. It's most importantly, we remind people that they matter. Looking ahead, in future episodes, we'll explore topics like IEPs and understanding the process, autism and the myths surrounding it, ADHD and executive functioning, transitioning into adulthood, employment opportunities, independent living, mental health, parent experiences, teacher and parent educator perspectives, community resources, self-advocacy, and success stories from people who refuse to give up. I just want to thank everyone for listening to the very first episode of the Unseen Project podcast. And today's episode connected with you. If today's episode connected with you, I hope you continue this journey with us. And if you have a story you'd like to share, or know someone that who should be a guest, or have a topic you'd like us to cover, we'd love to hear from you. One of the biggest things that I'm going to be working on here soon is a form for people to fill out if they would like to share any feedback or share any topics, or just anyone that would like to be contacted to provide a story. That'll be coming out in episode 2. I'll be talking about that. In the next episode, I will also be talking about the mental health part of special education, how that impacts people with disabilities. Thank you for listening for the very first episode of the Unseen podcast. Peace out, and don't forget to see the unseen because you matter.